state of affairs and the tense position.
The following program, The Russ Belville Show, is intended for responsible adults only. We advocate to the repeal of marijuana prohibition for adults. We discuss the science, culture, and controversy about America's marijuana laws. We do not advocate any illegal activity and encourage all listeners to learn their state and federal marijuana laws. Opinions and claims made by guests and advertisers on The Russ Belville Show are their own, and The Russ Belville Show cannot be held legally responsible for their validity or reliability. Viewer discretion is advised.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
From the promise of legalization.
And I think that we need to rethink and decriminalize our marijuana laws.
To the agony of prohibition.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
The Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation. Brought to you by the National Cannabis Coalition.
Yeah, I hear you had a question for me.
Now, here's your host, Radical Russ Belville.
Oh, yeah. What up, everybody? We made it to the end of the week. It's Friday, June 15th, 2012, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world, and it's most definitely 420 here at Rolla J Studios in beautiful Potland, Oregon. We got the whole crew with us today, including Wiz Khalico here on camera, too. How you doing, Wiz Khalico?
Hello, aloha. I'm doing quite well. Glad to be here.
All right. Got all sorts of things happening today we've got to get to real quick. Also, Ganja John's hanging out there on the other side.
What's up, Russ? How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. How about yourself?
Good to hear. I'm doing fantastic as well, my friend.
Oh, it is fantastic all around.
It is
here.
Fantastic Friday.
Let's see if Carrie is fantastic. Carrie Gallagher, our news director out there in Astoria, Oregon. Carrie, are you fantastic?
I'm so sorry. I'm just amazing today.
Oh, doggone it. Well, we're 3 for 3 with fantastic and 1 amazing. You can't get much better than that. Good to see you, Carrie. And we got to get to the news, folks. There's all sorts of breaking news here in the cannabis community. And foremost among that, and dear to our hearts right now, is the news breaking. We saw it on tokeofthetown.com about our good friend Bobby Tuna, a.k.a. Robert Platshorn, America's longest-serving nonviolent marijuana prisoner. We'll be talking to him exclusively at 45 after. So stick around. We're going to talk to Bobby Tuna live here from his home in Florida and get the update on the latest threat to his freedom. That's right, guys. Our good friend Bobby Tuna, the feds are messing with him and threatening to put him back in prison after he did 29 years.
Well, he's doing a lot of speaking up lately, so I can see why.
Yeah. They always want to go after anybody who's politically active. Bobby's been with the Silver Tour, convincing senior citizens they need to vote for reform of marijuana laws, and that's got to have a lot to do with it. Also, at half past, we've got our good friend revisiting our show, or joining this show for the first time, I guess technically, Steve Bloom with the Celeb Stoner Entertainment Report from celebstoner.com. He's going to tell us what's going on in celebrity and entertainment, music, and sports news with regard to the cannabis community. But before we get to all of that news, we start with Cannabis Carrie and our daily Cannabis Chronicle. So what are in the headlines today?
Well, before we get to Bobby Tuna's story, we're going to cover some LA dispensary owners who were arrested yesterday. Also, most of the land that gets seized in those marijuana busts just gets sold off to auction. I'm going to tell you what happened to some land in Tennessee. But first up, we're going to talk about the latest mayor to come out in support of decriminalization measures.
All right, we'll get to all of that. Also, we have our regular daily Toker tunes at 20 after. We take a break and get the best music, and Herb Thrasher will be calling up. He's got a Rockin' Friday tune today from Greenleaf. The song is called Case of Fidelity. Also, he's going to tell us about his upcoming show tonight, live at 8 o'clock, Herb Thrasher Flower Hour, which is actually 2 hours of metal, rock, jam, and even some alt country music. His guest tonight, a very special guest, Jose Mangan from XM Satellite Radio. He runs some of the metal channels out there, so they're going to discuss rock radio and the future of Herb Thrasher Flower Hour and all of that. Plus, we have a lot of sports talk that we got to get to in the Herb Thrasher Flower Hour. So check that out at 8 o'clock tonight, and follow him at Herb Thrasher. Twitter. I'm at Radical Russ on Twitter, and you're listening to The Russ Belville Show. We are the voice of the marijuana nation. Stick around for hour 2 as well, where we take your calls at 971-533-7111. You can also be part of our chat room, which you can find at the National Cannabis Radio page, ncr420.com, ncr420 on Twitter as well. And that's it for now. We'll be right back after this break with the news and Cannabis Carry. Thanks for joining us.
It's simply business. It's simply business. It's simply business. You know why they won't let us grow. It's simply business.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation. Brought to you by the National Cannabis Coalition.
It's simply business. It's simply business. It's simply business. You know why they won't let us grow. It's simply business. It's simply business. You know why they won't let us grow. It's simply business.
Support the Russ Belville Show. Text the word Russ to 420-420 and connect with the National Cannabis Coalition. You can also send $10 to the Russ Belville Show right from your smartphone. That's Russ to 420-420. You're listening to Radical Russ on the Russ Belville Show. Ganja John, freaking out stoner comedian since 2011. Marijuana's not going to re-legalize itself. You've got to do your part. Join the National Cannabis Coalition today at nationalcannabiscoalition.com. Medical marijuana, industrial hemp, ganja sacrament, consumer cannabis. The topic of marijuana is heating up the news, and the Russ Belville Show catches you up with today's latest headlines. Now, here's our senior news editor, Cannabis Carey, with the Daily Cannabis Chronicle.
Former White House Chief of Staff and current mayor of Chicago has come out in support of what is quickly becoming a nationwide trend. Mayor Rahm Emanuel said earlier today that he would back a proposal to decriminalize possessing small amounts of marijuana. Emanuel is just the latest U.S. political figure to support rolling back penalties for marijuana use. When the ordinance was proposed last year, Emanuel asked to have a police analysis done to see if the law reform would make sense. In a statement today, the mayor said that the results of that analysis was that reducing the processing time for minor possession of marijuana would ultimately free up police officers for the streets. According to Chicago Police Department statistics, last year there were 18,298 arrests in the city for possessing less than 10 grams of marijuana. Every arrest involves about 4 officers, 2 arresting and 2 transporting officers, plus the burdens on the already overburdened Cook County jail and court system. According to Police Superintendent Gary McCarthy, marijuana arrests for small amounts tied up more than 45,000 police hours last year. It's estimated that the new ordinance would cut those police hours in half, saving around $1 million, while freeing up the police to address more serious crimes. Under the proposed ordinance, police officers will have the discretion to issue tickets with fines ranging from $100 to $500 for people caught with less than 15 grams of marijuana, and they can issue that ticket right on the spot. Currently, anyone caught with any marijuana is facing a judge and up to 6 months in jail and up to a $1,500 fine. Chicago would only be the latest in a growing number of large American cities that are reducing penalties associated with marijuana crimes. Seattle, New York, Portland, Madison, and recently, even the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., have all made similar moves. The ordinance will most likely be voted on during the city council meeting on June 27th, and with the support of both the mayor, the Chicago Police Department, and the group of council members who first proposed the idea, it looks like it's probably on its course to becoming a reality.
Oh, wow. That's, this is fantastic news coming out of Chicago, especially considering the source. If you don't follow politics very much, Rahm Emanuel goes all the way back to the Clinton administration, and he was instrumental in trying to formulate a plan when California first passed Prop 215, when they legalized the medicinal use of cannabis. They were up in arms about it at the White House. They were freaking out. Oh my God, they've legalized medical use. They knew what the result of that would be. One of the plans, and I believe Rahm Emanuel was the one who formulated it, was to go after the doctors. Emanuel was the chief of staff back then in the Clinton administration, was to go after the doctors and go after specifically their prescription licenses if they even dared to talk to patients about the medicinal use of cannabis. Right? Go after the doctor's free speech right, which, of course, the Supreme Court recognized was something you couldn't violate. You couldn't tell doctors they couldn't talk about marijuana. You could stop them from writing prescriptions. Actually, they really can't. They can write a prescription, but then they'd lose their DEA license for everything else. So, the whole Schedule 1 thing. But you couldn't stop them from talking about it. And that's why you find in all the medical marijuana laws that they say a recommendation for medical use of cannabis, not a prescription. But that being said, Emanuel went from the Clinton administration. He's in the Obama White House until recently, when he left to pursue the mayoral race there in Chicago, which of course he won. It's kind of interesting to see how when you come down from that high, lofty federal perch and you're making all these, what about the children? What kind of message do we want to send pronouncements? And you get down to the city level, the municipal level, where you're actually having to deal with the frontline police officers being taken off of the job for hours at a time to deal with, minor possession tickets of minor possession amounts of marijuana, taking them to the Cook County jail, all the processing time, and realizing the budgets just are too strained to be able to keep spending money going after kids with a dime bag. It's amazing that transformation that happens when you finally get to that level. I'm glad Rahm Emanuel has finally gotten to this level of pursuing this decriminalization. Now, if we can just work on him to get past the mindset that says, we still need to punish people from marijuana. Maybe not put them in jail, but we need to give them a ticket. We got to punish them somehow. But, baby steps, one step at a time.
The owners and operators of a chain of medical marijuana dispensaries in the LA area were arrested yesterday on federal drug trafficking charges. The early morning raid included the seizure of the company's bank accounts. 41-year-old Aaron Sandusky of Rancho Cucamonga, who owns the G3 Holistic Healing Centers, along with 44-year-old Keith Allen Sandusky and 31-year-old John Nichols, were all arrested, along with 3 owners who ran a grow operation in connection with the stores. An indictment issued last week by a federal grand jury charged all 6 people with conspiracy to manufacture and possess marijuana with the intent to distribute, and possession of marijuana with just possession of marijuana. I'm sorry about that. Each count carries a mandatory minimum federal sentence, though, of 10 years in a federal prison and a maximum penalty of life in prison. All the defendants are facing at least 1 count as well of maintaining a drug-involved premise, a charge that carries a maximum sentence of 20 years. Federal prosecutors said the arrest came after the owners of the store received written warnings about 8 months ago that G3's marijuana business was operating in violation of federal law. They say those warnings were ignored. While G3's owners and operators shuttered the stores that they had in Colton and Moreno Valley, the Upland store remained open yesterday, but today they were not taking any calls. All 6 defendants made an initial appearance on Thursday in federal court. None of them were asked to enter a plea. They will also be in court this afternoon for a bond hearing. We will keep you posted on any new developments.
Once again, expending the scarce federal resources, going after people that are trying to operate legitimately, trying to be, legitimate storefronts, to obey the law of the state passed by the will of the voters or by the legislature in some state situations. I still, it always just, every time we have to tell this story, you have to remind yourself that what they are preferring by doing this, what the government is preferring to this somewhat organized, somewhat above ground, somewhat transparent marijuana market with some scale of checking IDs and following rules and paying taxes. Rather than that, they'd much rather have it underground. They'd much rather have it unaccounted for, not contributing to the greater good of society in any way. No controls on who's growing it, how they're growing it, whether or not it's any good. This is what they'd prefer. I mean, because we have to face facts. We have to face the reality that the marijuana market's not going anywhere. It's been here for a long time, and it shows no signs of letting up. We've got 41%, 44%, I believe now, of the American public that have tried marijuana. There's 2.5 million of us that are using it every day. There's an estimated 750,000 to 1.25 million patients in California alone with marijuana recommendations from their doctor. It's not going anywhere. So let's develop ways of dealing with this, of regulating it like we regulate alcohol or tobacco. That's all we're asking for. That's all we want here. And to think that you would see these men going to prison for 10 years to life over this. If you're not a marijuana supporter, if you happen to just tune into this on a lark and you're wondering what we're all talking about, this is what we're talking about. You know, when people make light of us because we support marijuana legalization, it's not because we just want to get high. It's because we want to stop these kind of injustices. We want to stop these families that are going to be broken up for years now, 10 to life for these men. And talk about a bad year to be named Sandusky. At least these guys didn't do anything really wrong. They're going to put them away for 10 to life, going to spend that money, break up their families over growing a plant, over growing medicine for people. It's just a travesty, and this can't end soon enough.
And a large marijuana grow from 2006 that covered nearly 1,000 wooded acres was dedicated as a protected wildlife area in the Tennessee mountains. Now, this is the first time in state history that land seized in a drug raid has become state parkland, and only the fourth time ever in the country, according to the U.S. Department of Justice. The land stewardship was handed over to the Tennessee Wildlife Resource Agency, who will oversee hunting, hiking, and protecting the wildlife on the acreage that took years to clean up. The land agreement was a complicated deal involving more than a dozen government departments, law enforcement agencies, conservation groups, and nonprofits that all joined in negotiations that led to this land agreement. The standard outcome for seized property is typically an auction to recoup money for the police. The land once belonged to Jeffrey Carl Young and Morris Roller, who operated what federal agents called a decade of multi-state marijuana distribution. Young, who is now 55 years old, is serving 18 years in prison, and Roller, who is 59, is serving 16 years. The land deal was proposed by conservationists who found out the land might go to developers, and Short Mountain, where the acreage is located, is home to the headwaters of 3 rivers that supply drinking water and habitat to wildlife in the area. The conservation effort began soon after the men were arrested. The Tennessee Heritage Conservation Fund approved $154,000 to buy those parcels of land from the police in 2008, and the deeds were finally signed in April, and they include language that say that the land must now be kept as open space and have public access.
Boy, when you first began the headline, Carrie, I was worried it might have been our friend Bernie Ellis and his land. We'll have to get an update from him and what was going on there. But, this just once again shows this asset forfeiture part of the prohibition war that needs to be more addressed in public. People don't recognize this. And think about this perverse incentive that's set up. Now that the state can gain land, the state can gain precious resource, if it needs to, just through the seizure of people's land over drug charges, over these continuing criminal enterprise charges. And Carrie had some more on this story. Carrie?
Well, I was just going to say that the only reason this happened the way it was is conservation. It was land that was important to them, and they got involved right away. Originally, the land was going to be parceled up in small areas and just given to the highest bidder, to developers, this beautiful acreage. And that is typically what happens to your property when the police come and take it away. Mm-hmm. Without the conservationists, that's what would have happened to this land.
So one way or the other, you either get the incentive for the government to take the land and make it a park or whatever they want to do with it, or the incentive if they've got well-connected friends in big business somehow to be able to make that kind of deal. I mean, these kind of eminent domain and these seizure situations can be really corrupt when you start looking into them. And again, I reference our friend Bernie Ellis. If you haven't heard of him, just go out and Google Bernie Ellis's farm, and you'll find out the story. Basically, the federal government came after him over growing just a few plants for his own personal uses. It was a long, drawn-out battle that ended up with him having to cede, I think it was 25% of his land over to the government, or some such. I can't remember the exact details of the case.
I think I'll look it up, but I think it was half of his land.
Was
that was land that had been in his family for generations.
Right. Generational, passed down for a long, long time there.
I was just going to say, if you want to know more about this, civil asset forfeiture, you guys should check out forfeiturereform.com. Americans for Forfeiture Reform talks all about how, seized assets go up for auctions and then go to fund the police forces that do these raids.
Yeah, it's policing for profit, and I don't think it's anything that our founding fathers had intended when they put this country together and they put together our Bill of Rights that supposedly protects us from this stuff.
It's 420 back in Idaho, where Russ and Carrie were born. So we have to go connect with our Russ. You know what I mean? Please support these sponsors who support the Russ Belville Show.
All right, when we come back, it's time for your 20 after break. We're going to get some Rockin' Friday music going to get you revved up for the weekend. Herb Thrasher will be joining us, and we got music from Greenleaf. Stick around. It's the Russ Belville Show on National Cannabis Radio.
Then you know you're talking to that reefer man.
The law offices of Omar Figueroa would like to remind you to stand up for your rights. Please do not give up your precious liberties. There's nothing wrong with standing up for our constitutional rights, and in fact, it's the only way to honor the Constitution that recognizes our natural rights. Treat law enforcement with respect and respect the Constitution by standing up for your rights. If you are detained or arrested, stand up for your rights by repeating, "I respectfully invoke all my legal and constitutional rights. I do not consent to any search and seizure. I want to remain silent, and I want to speak to my attorney, Omar Figueroa." Omar Figueroa has more than a decade of experience in federal and California courts and graduated from Yale University, Stanford Law School, and Trial Lawyers College. Please contact the law offices of Omar Figueroa at 415-489-0420 or 707-829-0215 or on the web at www.omarfigueroa.com.
Do you really want to legalize marijuana? Prove it. Join the National Cannabis Coalition at nationalcannabiscoalition.com, where your donations directly support PotNet and the Russ Belville Show. Free speech ain't free, you know. Everyone knows music and marijuana go together, so let's wind up our 20 after break with the Russ Belville Show's Daily Toker Tunes, the best in pod-safe 420 music from around the web. Today is Rockin' Friday, featuring rock, metal, and the hard edge of alternative country. You can get downloads and more information about all our Daily Toker Tunes by visiting music.radicalruss.com. Now, sit back and enjoy your Daily Toker Tunes.
Oh, yeah, we're going to rock out here on the Daily Toker Tunes. We're waiting for a call from Herb. We still haven't got the call in yet, but while we're waiting, I can update you a bit on the Bernie Ellis story. Carrie's got some additional details. We just want to make sure we got the record clear, right?
Well, yeah, I was just looking back at that article. We wrote that up in October of 2010, and they actually ended up taking 25 acres of his land that he had lived on since he was like 18 years old, so it wasn't a generational farm. But the sad thing about that was he was a state epidemiologist, a public health official, and they made him move into a halfway house for 18 months, and he lost his job. And the other thing that he always said, Bernie Ellis said, if I was a rapist, I would have had to do the same time, but they wouldn't have been able to take my land. He just had a few lands.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's amazing the ways that we treat marijuana criminals, with air quotes, compared to how we treat actual, real, harmful criminals. And, like the way we lose our right to vote, the way that that they can take our land, the way that the federal government spends money, gives money to the states and local jurisdictions to come after us, but not rapists and murderers and thieves. It's just pathetic. All right, well, let's get to the Rockin' Friday, because that's what we're here for at the 20 after break. We just wanted to make sure to update the story. I don't know what's keeping Herb. He's got a job to do, day job like a lot of folks do. So I think he's probably being kept up by that. But we've got the tune ready to go. I don't know a lot about the band, but I'm sure if you tune in tonight to the Herb Thrasher Flower Hour at 8 p.m. Pacific time, we're live for 2 hours with metal and rock and alt country videos and songs and just a lot of fun. Some talk thrown in there as well. Plus, special guest Jose Mangan from XM Satellite Radio. He runs a lot of the metal stations out there on XM Satellite. He'll be calling in to give us a little talk, and we'll talk about rock and radio and everything going on there. So check it out, Herb Thrasher Flower Hour. Plus, we're doing a little bit of a change-up, audible on the schedule, if you will. After Herb Thrasher Flower Hour, I love the show so much that we're going to play Big Daddy Fink's Funky Roller Rink at 10 o'clock, followed by Irie Island Hour at 11 o'clock, followed by Ganja John Show at midnight. So you get all the music shows back-to-back on Friday nights. I think it'll be a good time. So check it out tonight on National Cannabis Radio. Let's get into the rock now. This is Greenleaf with Case of Fidelity. You can get your download from music.radicalruss.com or just check the links up in the top header. Be right back with Steve Bloom from Celeb Stoner.
Just face it, it's a fact. You need a rhyme,
Yeah.
As High Times Senior Cultivation Editor, I'm often called into the field and asked to sample or even identify exotic strains of marijuana in their natural habitat. Now, for the first time, I've compiled more than 120 of my favorite strains into this single field guide designed to fit into your pocket as you travel the world in search of your favorite plant. From a friend's closet grow room to the wilds of Northern California, this single guide covers all of today's best-known strains, plus heirlooms and throwbacks, including High Times quality photos and information on each variety's genetic heritage and growing characteristics, plus my personal notes on aroma, flavor, and potency. So this is Danny Danko, author of the official High Times Field Guide to Marijuana Strains, wishing you good times and great ganja.
The official High Times Field Guide to Marijuana Strains is available at hightimes.com and finer bookstores.
Attention, National Cannabis Radio listeners. If you haven't heard the political pontifications of Lively and Mr. Libra on the Libra Lounge yet, be sure to visit here Wednesday nights at 6 Pacific or visit thelibralounge.com for archives and links to download current episodes. Be a lounger.
The Libra Lounge.
Now it's time for our CelebStoner.com entertainment report, and we bring to the phone from New York City, Steve Bloom. Hey, Steve, how you doing?
Hi, Russ. How are you?
I'm doing great, and we got so much to have to cover here. It's been a while since we gotten a chance to talk to you, and I think we'll start first of all with our beloved New York Media Softball League. Do you got any updates on the High Times bong hitters for us?
Yeah, they're leading the league again, as usual. They're 4-0. Just so people know, it's the New York Media Softball League that includes High Times, Wall Street Journal, Forbes, Newsweek, Daily Beast, DC Comics, and WNYC Radio. And High Times always gets off to a great start. They've won all their games. They've won their 4 league games. They've won several other non-league games. They're undefeated. They come from behind a lot. They sort of know how to win. They had a really exciting victory over Forbes last week. Actually, it was Monday, where they were down 2-0, scored 3 in the bottom 6, and then Forbes tied the game with a home run in the top 7, and High Times won the game with a walk-off home run in the bottom 8. So they know how to win. They're really a fun team, but High Times still has to beat Wall Street Journal. Wall Street Journal has won the league the last 3 years in a row, and High Times has lost to Wall Street Journal in the playoffs in the final game for the last 2 years. So they still have a bit of a hill to climb.
Our streets. Whose streets? Our streets. We got to occupy Wall Street on this one, huh? And the other softball league that we followed in Washington was the one hitters with a bunch of SSDP and other staffers. Do you have any news on that one?
Well, I just heard about it, but I haven't really. I don't follow it that closely, but I did hear that they really whipped the White House 25-5 or something like that. It's a game that I know that the Chris Crane, who was on that team when he was back with Normal and years ago, always wanted to play the White House, and they finally got their wish, and they kicked some butt.
Yeah, that's fantastic. All right, one of the big features on the CelebStoner.com website that people are always interested in is the top celeb stoners, and it's a list that includes many luminaries and some celebrities, some activists. And who do you have for your latest top celeb stoner?
Our latest is Miley Cyrus, which may seem a bit of a surprise, but actually Miley, people know that on her birthday, her 18th birthday, she did bong hits of Salvia. She recently got a dog named Marley. She liked her weed. Now, she hasn't really spoken about it very publicly, but it's been more, she's one of those celebrities that's just everything she does. She sneezes and she's in the news. So, she's been, basically, referring to marijuana quite a bit in various ways has led us to believe that she's quite the stoner. She got a birthday cake. Now, let me see. The dog is named Mary Jane, and the cake was a Marley birthday cake on her 19th birthday. And so she said, you have to be a stoner for your friends to give you a Marley cake and things like that. So, she, if you have to know that, celeb stoners are voted by the readers of the site. We put up 6 names every month, and we let people vote. So it's whatever people want. You know, we give them a choice. Right now, there's a vote that includes Richard Branson and Wiz Khalifa and people like that. So people have to make their own selections, and they made their choice for Miley.
Yeah, they're fantastic. All right. Can't wait to see the bong show up in the Saturday Night Live skit on that Miley Cyrus show. All right. There's a movie out, and Cannabis Carrie had actually been talking about this movie. She called it On Golden Pond on Weed. It's a new Jane Fonda movie out. Tell us about this one.
That's sort of true in a way. It's one way to put it. Peace, love, and misunderstanding. I guess because of Jane Fonda being the star of the movie, and of course she was on Golden Pond. She doesn't make very many movies. This is her fourth movie since 1989. Everybody may know of her as Hanoi Jane and all this other stuff, but obviously she's one of the great actresses of all time. But she really took a break from acting, so she only takes a role every once in a while. I guess she wants to play a hippie mama because that's what she does in this movie. She lives in Woodstock, New York. Her daughter, played by Catherine Keener, is kind of straight, and she's just having her marriage is breaking up, and she has two kids, and she hasn't seen her mother in 20 years, kind of an estranged family, and she decides to, go up to the country and visit mom, and, it becomes a bit of the culture clash. It's a little bit like Laurel Canyon, if you remember. I remember that show. Frances McDormand and her son, who Frances McDormand plays like the hippie record producer, and her son, Christian Bale, is kind of the straight one, and he doesn't really relate to her lifestyle. And it's kind of similar here. Catherine Keener, has to kind of come around, and it takes her a while. And meanwhile, the daughter, played by Elizabeth Olsen, has a little bit of a romance there, and the son. Everybody has a little bit of a fling up in Woodstock. It's a nice movie. It doesn't really go too far. It doesn't make too much fun of the hippie lifestyle, kind of unlike Wanderlust with Jennifer Aniston, which I actually like a lot better, but they made a lot of fun of the hippies in that movie. This movie doesn't really make fun of the hippies. It's a little, it's a little respectful, and it's nice, but it's a small movie, and I'm not sure it's going to really get around too much, so you might have to see it on DVD or Netflix.
And looking now to the small screen, the big news in the cannabis community would be the cancellation or the ceasing of production, I'm not sure which, of the Showtime show Weeds.
Well, Weeds is going to come to an end after this last season, 8th season, which begins July 1st. And the show kind of has been heading downhill, I'd say, over the last few years. I'm a big fan of Weeds. It's something to write about. It's about our culture. But I think a lot of people feel it veered away from our culture over the years. The first 3 years, it was set in Agrestic, and that's when Nancy Botwin, played by Mary Louise Parker, was the soccer mom who started dealing to other parents, and it kind of escalated to her starting a grow room and getting deeply into the business, and then getting into lots of trouble because she really didn't know what she was doing or getting into. And, it led to, them leaving Agrestic after she kind of burned down half the town. And now they moved south, and they went to near San Diego, and she got involved with a Mexican mobster. And a lot of people felt the show kind of a little bit went off the rails around that time, really got away from the weed subject, the marijuana focus of the show. And then last season, she got out of jail after taking the rap for her son's murder of her rival Pilar, who is Esteban's confidant, going back a couple of years on the show. And so, she spent the year in New York getting back into the marijuana business, but she was being followed. And, she has her enemies. And so the season ended with a target on her face as she's sitting down for dinner in a house in Connecticut, and we never knew whether, she was assassinated or not. And it seemed like that might have been an interesting, mysterious way to end the whole show. But instead, they've decided to bring it back for one more season. So we're going to get 13 more episodes of Weeds. We're going to see where things go from here. Now, there was a tragedy, as they've referred to in the press release. There's a tragedy. Somebody got shot. Somebody was killed in the family. And it's a question of, who? Now, remember, Shane was the one who killed Pilar, so maybe they went after Shane. Jill, her sister, was at the dinner that night as well. There was also Silas and Andy and Doug, so it could have been anyone. But Andy and Doug are coming back, so they weren't murdered. Obviously, Mary Louise Parker wasn't murdered. So the kind of a good question leading into the first episode is who died, and then they're going to take it from there. We're going to see where the show goes. But Weeds will come to an end, maybe a little bit of an agonizing end for some of the people who are not fans of the show. I've been monitoring this for a while. I don't think the stoner audience is really taken to weeds over the last few years. I like it. I think it's good writing. I think it's smart. It's funny. Great acting. But sometimes, you might want the storyline to go another direction. For instance, when they had medical marijuana a few years ago and they opened up a shop and there was all kinds of squabbling and it closed, they didn't really handle it well. So sometimes they seem to want to go for the exaggeration of what really goes on in the marijuana world instead of playing it straight.
Sure.
So this is the way they do it, but I think we'll miss weeds when it's gone.
Yeah. All right. Well, we also got to report on the unfortunate news of actor and comedian Tommy Chong being diagnosed with an early form of prostate cancer. I know you're often in touch with Tommy and his family there. Do you have any news that you can bring us on that?
Well, as everybody knows, I think, in this community that Tommy, does have cancer, and it's a first-stage, low-level prostate cancer. And he, instead of using traditional medicine, pills and radiation and whatever other chemotherapy-type treatments that might be offered to him, Tommy doesn't appear to want to go in that direction. And he's going in a more unique direction. He wants to beat cancer by using cannabis oil or hemp oil or hash oil. He keeps calling it all these different names, but he's been influenced by Rick Simpson's Run for the Cure movie about curing cancer with hemp oil, and so he wants to give that a try. And he thinks he's in touch with some natural practitioners up in Vancouver and Victoria Island. He's Canadian, so he's been going up there. I hadn't been in touch with him since he went to the doctor on Monday to find out a little bit more of what he is going to do in terms of what's the latest. The news broke over the weekend. He did, tell me, what he was doing, but as of Monday, I haven't heard from him, so I'm not really sure if anything else has changed. But as you probably know, the Rick Simpson, hemp oil therapy is very controversial, and some people, I guess, say it works. I think you probably know a lot about it. It's something that Normal's discussed quite a bit over time. So, what's your take on hemp oil?
I think it can't hurt to try the hemp oil, but I think you shouldn't forego other treatments that have been proven to work. So I worry for Tommy that, he's going to give up on the things that we know do work in favor of something that may or may not. So I hope for the best.
It seems like Tommy wants to be a guinea pig. I think he wants to, utilize marijuana and prove that marijuana can actually cure cancer. Let's hope it works for him.
Yeah, I sure do. I sure do hope so. Well, Steve, we got to wrap things up, but here we're heading into the summer. There's all sorts of events going on. I'm wondering what's happening with celebstoner.com and any places you might be where people can catch up with you. Any new books or anything?
Well, actually just pretty much status quo. I haven't been traveling too much, so I'm sticking around the New York area. No follow-ups right now to the books that I've done, Pop Culture and Refer Movie Madness. Just focusing on the website and continuing with that. And I'm very excited for you. I think, National Cannabis Radio is a great opportunity. I love when you call it NCR. It's kind of a cute play on initials. Yeah. And, I wish you the best. I think it's a great opportunity for you, Russ, and I think you have a big following. I think people are going to stick with you.
Oh, thanks so much. We like to say NCR, it's the NPR of POT.
That's what I figured. Okay, I do.
I got to give credit to Dave Bienenstock for that one. He came up with that one on the previous incarnation. But Steve, thanks so much for joining us, and I hope we can get you back in a couple of weeks and make this a regular thing.
Yeah, let's keep it going.
All right.
My pleasure, Russ.
All right. When we come back, we're going to be speaking with Bobby Tuna himself, Robert Platshorn, America's longest-serving nonviolent marijuana prisoner. He did 29 years for you and me, getting marijuana to, my generation and the generation before me. And we'll be talking to him because the feds, his latest PO, has got us PO'd. We'll be right back after this.
The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at RadicalRuss.com. The Normal Network brings you the best in daily toker tunes at 3 and 9 o'clock Pacific Time, AM and PM every weekday. Each day features a different genre, including Roots Monday.
Folks, here's a story about Minnie the Moocher.
Electric Tuesday, Irie Wednesday, Groovin' Thursday, and Rockin' Friday.
Some they like to hit the ball, some just took the vibe.
Are you or is someone you know a marijuana smoker? Have you or is someone in your family been arrested for a marijuana violation? You need to know the truth about pot. NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, is the most comprehensive source of information regarding marijuana and its effects on health, as well as legal issues. NORML even offers a database of lawyers specializing in cannabis in your area. NORML, the nation's largest and most successful marijuana law reform organization, has spent decades gathering the knowledge and science on everything related to cannabis. NORML is the best resource to find out the truth about marijuana, connect with a lawyer in your area, or help find an end to prohibition. Information is available at norml.org. That's NORML.org. Or toll free at 888-67-NORML.
There be pirates here. Har, 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 har,
har. The cannabis community includes a diverse set of activists and nonprofits working to end the prohibition of marijuana. We take the time to hear the stories of reform on the Russ Belville Show's Cannabis Community Chat.
All right, welcome back, everybody, and we are so excited to have our next guest with us because he's a friend of the show. We got Wiz Khalico here and Ganja John as well. I'm sure they want to say hi to our next guest, Robert Platshorn, a.k.a. Bobby Tuna. How you doing, Bobby?
Russ, it's always a joy and a pleasure to be on your show. Despite all the problems and anxieties and threats from the government, I'm there, man.
All right. Well,
I'm here with you.
And we got Khalico here as well.
Aloha, my man.
Hey, Khalico.
Glad to hear your voice. Hope everything's going well. Hopefully we can get all this stuff nipped in the bud.
Well, it's all out in the open now. I've been sitting on this for 6 weeks hoping to settle it quietly. I mean, I've got a release from the Parole Commission that says by this action, you are no longer under the jurisdiction of the U.S. Parole Commission. Now they say I am under their jurisdiction, and I suspect it's a result of my activities as an activist, and particularly the Silver Tour. I think they're really not happy about the Silver Tour going on television.
Hey, Bobby, this is Ganja John. We had talked about in San Francisco that, you know, just to get people up to date, that your parole officer was changing because your current parole officer was sick and is taking a leave of absence. And, you know, we talked about it, and you'd said your fears were kind of that exactly this was going to happen, that they were going to find out about the Silver Tour, find about all your traveling and not be okay with it. What are your next steps that you're going to do to continue work doing the Silver Tour without leaving Florida?
Well, it's really kind of simple. Of course, you know, we filed a suit against the government, and we would like to get an injunction against the Parole Commission from interfering with my activities, but those things don't come easy or fast. In a way, this has made an important decision very easy for me. Rather than go out and try and make a living, which I'm now not going to be able to make, you know, the selling my books and DVDs of Square Group or at the shows has been the 80% of my income. But now I've got to stay home, and the most important project is to finish the TV show we're doing called Should Grandma Smoke Pot? One network has already cleared it, and 2 networks have asked to see it. And an hour ago, I got an inquiry from a reality TV producer. But I've got to finish the show. Everything's paid up to date. We've got almost all the footage, and we're getting down to editing and voiceover, and I need to raise another $5,000 to finish it off. But we haven't stopped. We haven't slowed down. I spent 8 hours on camera yesterday
to
get some really gorgeous pieces for the half-hour show. It's going to be an ass kicker.
I'm sure it will be.
And a shocker. For the first time, we're going to go from mainstream America The plan is to put it on in infomercial slots, half-hour infomercial slots, on weekdays in the morning between the morning shows and the soap operas, and put it on weekends and the afternoons. The networks have already acknowledged that they think it's going to be a big audience builder instead of sticking infomercials in there, which is an audience killer. And so our costs are going to be very, very low for airtime. But I've got to get the show finished, and that's virtually all I'm doing. Once this furor settles down a little bit, a lot of people have been emailing me and going online and saying that they'd like to help. If they would, I did not set up any special fund. I don't like asking people for money. If they'd like to help me finish the TV show and provide a little expense and legal money, they donate to the Silver Tour. The Silver Tour is a nonprofit, and all they've got to do is go online at www.thesilvertour.org, and there's one of those great big nasty donate buttons there.
Yes, we've got it up in our chat room, thesilvertour.org. And I tell you what, we are going to help you here at National Cannabis Radio. We'll figure a way offline to get some books out here. And at all the West Coast events we do, we would be glad to help you raise some money by selling some books. Anything we can do to help.
All right. My friends at MetaFresh out in L.A., you know, that really neat little packet that you put in with your medicine.
Right.
Not only keeps it fresh, there's now lab reports that it actually helps the potency. Oh. And I love the product. The guy's been a terrific friend, and he happens to be holding some of my books, and he's going to be at the Cannabis Cup in San Fran. Mm-hmm. I've had to cancel out, thanks to the government. And this is the first one I've ever missed. You know, High Times Medical is kind of my home, and I write for them when I get a chance. I'm the featured story in the summer edition of High Times Medical Cannabis Cup. They got a great 4 or 5 page story in there. And it would have been terrific for me to go and do a book signing. I could have earned a month's grocery money. Mm. And instead, they canceled me out. So I do have some books out on the West Coast, and Louis going to be there.
Yeah, we've got donations coming in right now from people already from our chat room that are saying they want to help out. And National Cannabis Coalition, our sponsor, has already decided to donate $100 toward the Silver Tour, and we encourage everyone to match that. Get $100 out there to Bobby, because I'm telling you, and you say it all the time, and you say it better than I can, but I'll just summarize, is that winning this battle for legalization means winning the hearts and minds of seniors.
Yeah, and fortunately, a whole lot of other people as well. I mean, the Silver Tour was designed to get a message to seniors, but the message itself applies just as much to a 20 or a 30 or a 40-year-old, and they recognize this on their own. Without looking for that audience, I've built a tremendous following in all age groups and had great results. It's incredibly gratifying. And of course, the Facebook is going crazy, and so is Twitter with posts that are putting up now. And every cent that comes in will see that we finished Should Grandma Smoke Pot? And let me tell you, this show looks great. We're going to kick them in the face with some of the great Harry Anslinger quotes, and the great things Nixon had to say about marijuana and Jews and blacks. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that'll go over in Florida.
Yeah, and we've got some great material from Bob Melamede and Dr. Bierman and Donald Abrams and all the great researchers and doctors who've been doing work with cannabis. We've got a great spot with my buddy Irv Rosenfeld who the government told me I'm not allowed to associate with.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a really, really strong half hour, very fast pace, and I think it's going to get people up in arms, not just activists, but the general public. Because that's where we're going, and that's where nobody's ever gone before.
Exactly.
This show's going to be shown hundreds of times. We will get to everybody.
Yeah, and we want everyone to check out thesilvertour.org to help out, to make your donations. Should Grandma smoke pot? It's going to be an amazing infomercial or educational piece, however we want to describe it. And we are going to, like I said, we are going to meet up with your buddy from L.A. Just have him come up, tell him to bring the books, and we'll post them at our booth. We're going to be there all day, all night, doing our live broadcast, and we will maybe even get you on the phone to hawk some books.
Be my pleasure. You know, I'm always there for you. I love being on the air with you. It's always been fun, and it's always been a really terrific help to me.
John?
I just wanted to say too, Bobby, if in August we can't figure out getting you out here for HempFest, I would be happy to run a booth for you. We would be happy to run it from our booth. Whatever we need to do to get money to you and get money to the Silver Tour, we're willing to do it. And you guys out there listening should be too, because this guy is our marijuana Jesus. He went to jail for all of us, so we don't have to. The longest serving federal prisoner. I mean, if people don't understand the scope of this, and to take Bobby and put him out of prison for just a few years and come all of a sudden to his home and say, hey, we need a urinalysis. Fuck these guys. I mean, I can't even believe this. I'm getting red with anger just thinking about it.
Hulk smash.
Yeah, I just, Bobby, anything we can do, we're here for you. Contact us anytime, and I'll be shooting you some messages after the show today.
I appreciate it. And you know what makes this whole thing sound so phony is that my parole officer was well aware that I was treating several cancers with oil, and he had not only had no objection, but was interested and watched the results, and the guy was very understanding. And for them to show up with a UA bottle under those circumstances, you know it's a deliberate attack to see how much damage they could do.
Well, for me, the strange part of it is, you know, them mentioning you're not to associate with Irv Rosenfeld. This is the federal government telling you not to associate with someone that they're giving marijuana to. That's amazing.
Who himself is not a criminal, right, in any way. Yeah. I mean, for the government to tell an adult that they can't hang out with another adult is ridiculous to me. I mean, just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, it is, and our attorneys. Mike Minardi's the lead attorney on this. He's a really terrific guy who got the Jeff Kennedy case thrown out of prison. Thrown out of court on a medical necessity, and this is in Florida where we don't have medical. Mike's really terrific, and there's a couple of more attorneys behind him, and I'm sure there'll be an offer from Normal, although I sure haven't heard a word from them yet. But I have had a lot of offers of help from other attorneys.
Oh, I'm sure that we'll get someone to help you out. There's going to be, you know, if people can't recognize the importance of what you're doing with Silver Tour and that program that you're putting together, then there's something seriously going wrong. And we're going to do everything we can to help you out. Let's give everybody, let's wind up here and give everyone the contact information, thesilvertour.org. Is there any other way if people want to email you and get in touch with you, Bobby?
Contact's right on there. It goes right to my email.
All right. Thesilvertour.org. Don't forget the. And Robert Platshorn, I want to thank you once again for being here, our guest here on the Russ Belville Show.
My pleasure, Russ, and thanks for your interest and thanks for your help.
Oh,
from the very beginning when I got out of prison, you were there with me helping out. And you're here for me now, and I'll always be here for you, man.
Thank you. I ain't going nowhere. And in fact, if those of you looking on the webcam, I even got my Black Tuna Gang medallion on. I wear it every day to remind me why we do this, why we're here every day, and that is to fight this prohibition that messes with the lives of good people like Robert Platshorn, good people like you and me, that all we're doing is enjoying marijuana instead of a martini or a Marlboro or a Midol. We deserve respect. We deserve to be left alone. We deserve to not be discriminated against. This is our right. Hemp is our heritage, and we'll be here every day fighting for it. Weekdays, 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock here on National Cannabis Radio and the Russ Belville Show. Stay tuned. We're not going anywhere. We got another hour coming up here. Toker Talk Radio, where we take your calls at 971-533-7111. Call up and give a shout out to Bobby Platshorn. Let him know how much you appreciate him. And if you got any questions or comments, just let us know. For Ganja John, Liz Coleco, and Cannabis Carey, I'm Radical Russ. Until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it.